Here we go. Right. Okay. So I think there are various people joining still from your side in Uganda. Before we start, let me just ask George to introduce himself from our side. So it was quite late notice for a lot of people to join, but George, who's been a long time see-through network collaborator, can just introduce himself. Go ahead, George.
Hi, my name's George Hinchcliffe from the UK, and I've run a business for 40 years and helped out with various projects using audio management and I suppose the entertainment business is primarily where I've been active. If that helps.
I'll just fill in a bit to explain that George is being unnecessarily modest in that the band that he's run for 40 years has done it contravening all expectations of the music industry without owning all their own IP. And I've filmed them when I was making documentaries. I've filmed them performed standing ovations and full audiences at the Royal Albert Hall, Sydney Opera House, and Carnegie Hall. So his achievements are remarkable, and he's in addition to being a fantastic musician, he's a very experienced and capable producer, which is I think he can bring to our party today. And he, like me, is used to ducking and diving and being creative and imaginative and using minimal resources for maximum impact. In his case, ukuleles.
I suppose it's fair to say that in the entertainment or music business, people always assume that there should be a record company or a production company or a publishing company or a management company involved. And we've managed to keep going for 40 years without involving those other organisations. So we've been completely independent and yet nevertheless have been part of the UK and indeed international entertainment world.
And you'll see if you familiarise yourself with the See-Through Together playlists, George appears a lot performing, and he provided a lot of the music, and you're probably familiar with him from there. But of course, in this context, he's also a very experienced producer, producing very high quality impact with minimal resources, and of course that's what See-Through Network is all about. So that's our side. So Alan, would you like to go ahead and introduce? I think we know most people. I mean, George doesn't know, so if you could just very briefly introduce yourselves for George. I'll leave it to you, Alan, to manage that.
Thank you very much, Robert. It's a great one to meet you, George.
Hi.
Hello, how are you? So I'm called Katongole Alan, and I'm a programs coordinator for EALS Consult. And EALS Consult Uganda Limited is a profit-making company based here in Uganda. And our major focus has been majorly on within the circle of climate change and its impact, plus the environment. And here we are today with Robert Stan on the See-Through Carbon program, which we also expect to expand up to the entire East Africa. And slowly by slowly, we're moving. Otherwise, it's nice to meet you. Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, I'll just go around the clock there. Sheila, would you like to just briefly introduce yourself and say hello? If you can unmute yourself. Yep. You're unmuted, Sheila, but we're not hearing you yet. No, is your microphone not working? No, you're muted again now. Maybe we'll come back to you, Sheila. Just raise your hand if you can solve your tech issues, if that's what they are. Chris, would you like to unmute yourself and say hello?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Robert. let's see, George and Katongole and other people on the space. I'm so grateful for this opportunity granted. By name, I'm Chris Sally, chemistry activist, circular economist, researcher, and a chemistry biotechnician by profession. So I'm happy to be part of this space, discussing as we move on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next on my screen is Opolot Arnold. Would you like to say hello? Oh, I see. I think we'll come back to you in a moment, Sheila. Arnold? No. Chris, can you unmute your... That's fine. Arnold, are you in a position to speak? That's right. I think Sheila raised a hand. Would you like to have another go, Sheila?
Yes. Hi, Robert. Sorry, I realized I cannot, my audio on the laptop does not work. So I think this is me.
Good, hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sheila Nayo. I'm a carbon enthusiast. Right now, I do some research on carbon, and I'm a carbon operations manager. I work with EALS. I'm project managing for them for some projects, and I'm happy to be here. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. Where are we up to now? Well, maybe I'll just, because I don't want to get onto real matters of substance, and I know there's a lot of people there. Maybe if we could just hear from the people that you've nominated to be managing these projects. So we've heard from Sheila. Ronald, are you... Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Agiporona Utai. Working from EALS, representing see-through carbon over here in Uganda. And I'm a projects manager under EALS. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And then, so I'm just reading off the list you sent me. So Sheila is the producer for what we're calling Speaking of Climate, but we might want to change that. Ronald is the manager for that, the project manager, and for How to Live Without Plastic. Christine, is Christine here? She's the producer for How to Live Without Plastic. Ah, there we go. Hi. Can you unmute yourself? We can see you, but we're not hearing you yet, Christine. Can you hear us? No? Now we've lost your vision. Maybe you've only got bandwidth for one or the other. Okay, anyway, maybe we'll come back to you. Next is Jonah, who's appointed the project manager for the GRIT program. Is Jonah available? And
yes.
Yeah, there we go. Great.
Good afternoon to everyone that said. I'm not in a good place to put my video. I hope you can accept me to continue with audio. Can everyone hear me?
Very clearly.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Alinda Jonah. I'm the communications manager under EALS, and I'm working with Alan on the GRIT program. Thank you very much. I submit.
Excellent. And then Alan, we've heard from. So I think that's everyone that you've listed as being... Christine, can you unmuted yourself? Can we hear you now? Can you hear us? Try speaking. No? Ah! There we go. Administrator. Okay, your volume was very low, but we could just hear. But actually, one of the things that we will be teaching, and then hopefully you will be teaching others as well, is good audio and how to get it. Because, this world of online communication, you know.
Maybe Robert, before we go further,
Yeah.
just to correct something on the GRIT project, I had placed myself there as a producer, but then Opolot Arnold, yeah, was very much onto this project actually. Only that he had told me it may not be possible to attend the meeting, but then he has got that time, and so I want him at least to say something. Opolot Arnold, and also maybe our boss Michael, without jumping the Michael Wanjuzi today is also part of it.
Michael's joined. Yeah, so I haven't been.
Thank you very much. Maybe that's what I wanted to pass on. Thank you.
Good idea. So Arnold, you go first.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Opolot Arnold. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yeah. I'm the producer for the GRIT, working with Alan.
Excellent. And okay, well, I'll come back and ask for some more details about your background in a moment. So let's just finally hear from Michael, who's the big boss. Who I don't think have you met George yet? No, anyway, Michael, say hello.
Hi, George.
Hi.
Yes, thank you very much, Alan and the team. You can hear. Can you see me? Yes, you can see me. Can you hear me?
We can see and hear you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is Michael Wanjuzi Makongo. I'm calling in from Soroti City. I'm in a nice shed, enjoying the breeze, and I'm happy to see this team that is actively involved in this project of STC, and I wish everybody good luck. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you. Okay, I think so. Alan, have we heard from everyone now involved in the production side of it?
Yes, Robert.
Okay, good. So, I want this to be as focused as possible. We've got if we run out of time, I'll try and tell you, and then we do what we did last time. We just rejoin the same meeting and Morris, can you mute your microphone? Morris, can you hear us? Okay, I think Morris's microphone is open, but anyway. First of all, thanks again for all your fantastic efforts in getting to this point, and the amount of thought and effort you put into these projects, and specifically how they might be adapted to Uganda. So you've chosen 3, GRIT, Speaking of Climate, and How to Live Without Plastic, which is fine. It kind of doesn't matter which ones you choose, but I think it's important just to keep it focused to begin with. Of course, How to Live Without Plastic is kind of a subset of GRIT. It's part of the program. GRIT is this kind of modular thing, and How to Live Without Plastic is one of the training tools that we have. So in a sense, they're part of the same thing. But in terms of how quickly we can do it and how easy it is to do, it's much simpler. GRIT is very, very ambitious. Not as ambitious as some things like the One Sunday Morning, but GRIT is a bigger thing. Speaking of Climate, it's quite different. This is basically a public speaking project, although it does involve some audiovisual skills as well, because I think it's whatever we do, we should record it as well as possible and upload it to social media. Then you get the amplifying effect, the megaphone effect. So if we're going to do anything, we should always record it and put it online, because then you have the chance of meeting many orders of magnitude more people having it reach them. But of course, the thing that we're teaching you and that you can then teach others is how to do that well with minimal resources. And I think, Michael's already been through this, the prototype for the GRIT program. You're familiar with the videos that we did with those school children in Nairobi with minimal resources. We know how to do this, and we've got a good set of mentors here, professional broadcasters, and we can do that. So it's actually much simpler than most people are pleasantly surprised at how much impact they can have in very short space of time. The main thing being understanding the importance of audio. So when we talk about audio-visual storytelling, everyone tends to focus on the image and the picture, but that's literally only half of it. And YouTube is littered with good visuals that are ruined by poor audio. And it's not always about the technology, it's just about understanding how audio works. And everything we do can be done with nothing more than a smartphone and a laptop. So we only use free software, but there are amazing things available if you know how to use them. And we only use, but fortunately smartphones are kind of everywhere now. I know from the previous experience with Michael and working with people in Nigeria as well, that the kind of smartphones you have tend to be the cheaper Chinese ones. And sometimes, so we're familiar with the issues with them in terms of memory capacity and just kind of data management. But in terms of the actual quality of the camera and the microphone, they're excellent. They're perfectly good for our purposes. And they're amazing. It's amazing, really, what kind of technology is in people's hands now, even in Africa. The issues that we found in our previous pilots with Africa, specifically to Africa, are the memory capacity, literally just moving data around, and bandwidth. So because we have to do this remotely, obviously a good internet connection, not only for the lessons and the workshops, but also for sharing video information, because it's quite a large amount of data, is, I know, an issue in Africa because it's relatively expensive. So, because we don't have any money, we can't help you with that financially, but we're aware of the issue and we try and minimize the amount of data that you have to transmit. And this is in itself a good discipline, because good editing means you take a large amount of material and you make it much smaller and more manageable. So actually the skills that we're teaching you are exactly that. So you won't have to send us a huge amount. Once you learn how to do it, you won't have to send us a huge amount of video, because you'll already know how to compress it. Not technically compress, I mean literally take an hour's material and make it into 2 or 3 minutes of really good stuff. That's what we're teaching you. So anyway, but the prerequisite is you do need these basic bits of equipment, and you do need some kind of internet connection and the ability to participate in Zoom calls like this. So, but you seem to have worked that out one way or another. And of course, another way that we can mitigate that problem is by, what we want to do is we're teaching the teachers. This is how we see what we're doing with you in Uganda. We're teaching you how to do these in Uganda. And our ambition is, as soon as possible, to have nothing to do with it, just to let you get on with it. When you feel confident enough to do that. And even better, which is part of the agenda later on, but it's kind of nothing to do with us really, but obviously we're perfectly happy if you can charge people to provide these services, which is a good thing from 2 points of view. First of all, it puts food on the table for you, and it means you can maybe devote more time and energy to it, although you've already spent a huge amount of time on it on a volunteer basis, which we really appreciate. But the actually really important thing is for the client, because people don't generally value free things, and people value things when they pay for them. So if you can, and we can, help you, because we've done this ourselves, because we originally, as I explained when we started out, we thought we'd have to make money too. And without even advertising it, companies were approaching us, asking us to do these things that we were doing for free on their company premises to promote environmental awareness or whatever budget they have. You know, it's kind of, in the end, we were interested because we didn't need the money. But there are budgets now. I don't know if that's the case in Uganda, or how much the budget would be, but that's literally your business. But I don't want to spend too much time on that now, but I'm happy for you to ask questions about it if we can help you present it in a professional way. So the key thing is teaching you then, this core team here, the basic skills that you can then use to implement these things and in turn train other people. And again, if you want to charge people for that, you know, go for it. Let me ask you, I've done a lot of talking now. One thing that would be helpful for me to know is if you could just summarize, and maybe put it in the chat as well, and I'll just read it out rather than, it's a bit cumbersome to go around one by one. So if in the chat you can just jot down, how should we do this? Let me make it simple. If 10 is a professional filmmaker like me, and 0 is someone who's never seen a smartphone before, who's just come out of the forest, where would you put yourself on that in terms of your confidence in your filmmaking ability, your audiovisual, you know, so I don't know. Where would you put yourself, George, for example, on that scale?
I suppose it depends what you're comparing it to. Well, maybe halfway. I know a lot of people who are much more experienced than I am, but I've used quite a lot of technology in the past.
Yeah. So are we getting a 9.5 and a 7 in so far, I'm seeing, which is great. But remember that 0 is don't know anything and 10 is me. So that's great if that's the case, in which case you don't really need my help. But anyway, let's see. So where's the chat thing? How can I actually see? Here we got 7. That's great. So we've got Ronald 9.5, Michael 7. Who else? Arnold 8. Well, these are high rankings. This is great. In this case, this won't take very long. So let me put another question then. What software, because I mean, we only use free software. But of course, some of the more sophisticated free software, the demands on the operating system mean that they're not practical. Sometimes it depends on how modern your laptop is and the operating system and all that kind of thing. So if you've got any video editing software experience, can you just please put that in the chat as well? Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects. Excellent. Okay. That's tip top. That's Katongole Alan. Michael, no. That's fine. I mean, no is fine for answer any of these questions, because actually, if you know all this stuff, you don't need us, you know. But obviously, the more that you have, anyway, this is good. This gives me an idea of where you're at. Can I ask if anyone has used DaVinci Resolve? Has anyone heard of that? DaVinci Resolve. It's a video editing software. Okay. Now, I would recommend that we use it for reasons I can explain. We've got 10 minutes left.
I've heard of it, of course, and I know a number of people who use it. My understanding is that there's a free version of it, which is downloadable, which is actually a really good version, which is perfectly capable of editing video and audio to really good professional standards.
That's exactly
the idea behind that is that the manufacturers want people to know this stuff. So if they ever start working for the professional film industry, they already know it because they've been working on it on their own projects for nothing.
This is exactly right. So DaVinci Resolve it's used by professionals. I have the professional version. They call it the studio version, which cost about £250, so kind of $400 US dollars. But before that, for 2 years, I was using the free version that any of you could download now, and it's fantastic, and it's more than enough for our needs. And in general, because in the past when we've done these with kids and people, and last time we did it with the school children in Nairobi, we used a much simpler one. But just because there were so many complications and we didn't want to overburden them. But of course, it's better if you've got better tools. And DaVinci Resolve free version is a fantastic tool to have, and it's free. So I would recommend looking into that and maybe downloading it and having a play with it. It's free. And I think the one thing that is important is that we all use the same platform, because otherwise it's confusing. Although a timeline is a timeline. Please share the software link. All right, I will do that when I have a moment. So maybe I'll just say, let's use DaVinci Resolve then, unless we have a good reason not to, because I've looked into this a lot. And so Adobe Premiere is fine, but you need to pay. Someone needs to pay, and it's a subscription model. And Final Cut Pro. Anyway, we've looked at them all, so let's just go with DaVinci Resolve. It kind of doesn't matter, but we know that one's free and it works, so let's just decide on that. Now, that's the video editing, and of course, your laptop needs to. So the first thing to check when you download it, well, you'll find out whether it's compatible with your operating system, and then that. There are older versions. But anyway, you've got IT people, you know how to deal with that. There may be the previous version, if you can find someone with 16, maybe it may be compatible, but let's not get into that now. The other thing that's really important, of course, is the capturing equipment. Usually this would be, a camera and various forms of microphone. Now, does anyone have a camera that isn't a smartphone, as a matter of interest, or an audio recording device that is not a smartphone? While you answer that, I'll just find the DaVinci Resolve download link and share that.
I think I got it.
Right. Blackmagic Design, there we go. You want to make sure it's from the one from the manufacturer, not the... So here we go. I'll put that in the chat. Okay, so in the meantime, is anyone else? None has a camera, mobile. All right, so you've all got, that's fine. Right. So you should now have the link for DaVinci. So Blackmagic Design is the name of the company, the software publisher. That's fine. What I would recommend is if the more smartphones you have, the better. And this is where if you have teams, if you've got teams of 2 people, one person is using the smartphone as a camera, the other one is using it as a microphone. And even without any other equipment, that's already going to be a big advantage because you'll get better audio quality. But that's fine. Let's just assume we've got that. Now, the other way of doing this is online using Zoom, exactly what we're doing now. Because a laptop like this is, or even a smartphone, if it's held close and steady, is optimized for good pictures and good audio at this distance, if it's not too noisy around. And how to live without plastic can also be done via Zoom. So these are the options. So I'm talking first about the audiovisual thing. So this is a kind of inventory just to get so we're up to speed. So my understanding is, in summary, we're going to go with DaVinci Resolve. You have the link, download it, see if it works, have a play with it. There's loads of tutorials. You can just start learning. Don't have to wait for our instruction. The more you know, the better. But obviously, we'll be teaching you how to, I mean, basically, I use about 5% of its capacity, and I'm a professional filmmaker. It's amazing the amount of stuff it can do. But I think it's better to start with a sophisticated tool that you can then learn more stuff than start with something very simple and then have to use a new software. So that's why I'm recommending that one. In terms of equipment, if you can also send me the model and make of your smartphones, that would be very helpful, because I can then check the actual, the capacity and how much memory you have. This is very important. And basically, if memory is an issue for you, again, depending on these projects are designed not to require a lot, filming for hours and hours and taking up huge amount of memory. But what we found in the past is that often people had kind of maxed out on their memory, which is fine if you're taking photographs and things. But once you start taking even 10, 20, 30 minutes of video, they found that and then they were constantly having to manage their data and dump this. And, it's an unnecessary complication if you can avoid it. Of course, this can be solved by buying a micro SD card or something. But again, that means money and something else. So I just need to understand what your capacity is for that. So if you could just put the make and model of your smartphones that you have in there, that will help me understand, manage this and give you the best options. Okay, so much for equipment. So let's now talk about so just to finish that, once I have that information, I can then optimize, the next thing to do is actual training sessions. Let's just get to it and do it. Because that's the best way to find out. Now, 2 of the 3 projects you've chosen are to do with filming stuff, which is why I've spoken about that mainly so far. Alan, that's a very good suggestion. Rather than do it in the chat, if you could tabulate it and gather all that data, that would be much better. Thank you. The third project, what I've called Speaking of Climate, we had in the previous meeting, we had a very interesting conversation with, was it Sheila? Who was it who was pitching it? And as we discussed briefly last time, this will clearly be very different for Uganda than the pilot one that I did in the UK. For 2 simple reasons. The first is that for native English speakers, learning foreign languages is a big deal. That's why they invited me to speak at a Languages Day conference, and I had to smuggle in all the climate stuff. You all speak 3 or 4 languages, since you were kids, and so that doesn't make sense that speech would not make sense to most people in Africa, right? Whom you routinely speak one language with your mother, another with your father, another at the market, you hear another one on the TV and another one in the classroom or whatever. So that actual speech, you wouldn't work if you were to deliver that. But that's not what we should be doing anyway, because the other really interesting thing is that the good news is that in Africa, from what you were telling me last time, you don't need to pretend, you didn't need to disguise it as something else. You don't need to disguise climate speech by wrapping it up in a Languages Day speech for a school. You can just talk about it because people are receptive. And this is great. So just while we wait for everyone to rejoin, if you want to raise your hand or just unmute yourself, do you have any questions or comments so far? No one? That's good. That's a good thing. But
you were in the middle of saying that in the UK, it might be that the public is not receptive so much to talk about climate, whereas in Africa, people seem more receptive to talking about it.
So yes, thank you. That was so for the speaking of climate thing, it's a sort of, recording the speech when it happens is just a filmmaking thing. So we can have people who are trained on grit doing that as a practice. But of course, the bigger challenge is, writing the speech and developing the public speaking skills and, visual aids, slide deck or whatever to make it interactive. This is far more culturally dependent, and this is a very interesting challenge. So it was who's going to be delivering these speeches? Will it be you, Sheila? Is Sheila with us?
Yeah, I'm on. According to plan, yes.
Okay.
And I'll have someone assisting me, yes.
Okay, good. So, I think, we don't need to do it here because it'll be quite a detailed operation, and maybe we should have some separate sessions, one-on-one or, but basically, are you an experienced public speaker? Have you done a lot of public speaking in your work? Yeah.
A few sessions.
You feel confident to that? Yeah. Okay. Good. So, basically, that's more of a performance. Sorry, Michael, you raised your hand. Would you like to say something?
Yes. Thank you very much, Robert. Now, what I wanted to mention is one, this kind of activity is basically something that will help us in future for those who are interested in video editing and that kind of arrangement. But again, when we are with these limited resources we have, the phones and the laptops, we can manage to make this project a success. Because in the beginning, when I did it with Robert, I was green on everything that was happening, but somehow I managed to come out with something. So it can be something like an on-job training where you train at the same time you're learning, and these are skills that you will be with you forever. And once you grasp this skill, we can be able to teach other people. And another thing I wanted to say is we need to, when you're doing this project, you need to be like two people, because you cannot do it on your own. You need somebody to hold the camera for you, and there's a way you have to hold it. There's an angle, and once you get this information, there's a way like Robert said, you can compress it to 2 minutes thing, something of 1 hour, which is a skill which we should grasp. Then when we're approaching these people we'll be interviewing, we have to be friendly to them. We have to talk to them nicely, and you tell them the good things, and like we said earlier on, in Africa, people are receptive, or they are concerned with the things that affect them. They want to air out their views, and I'm sure we will be able to capture those that information. Briefly, that's what I wanted to say, Robert. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. I think they're excellent points, which, you know, we can't emphasize enough because, I mean, basically, you know, we're learning from you as much as the other way around. So on the technical matters, sure, we can teach you how to hold a camera and how to record good audio and how to edit stuff. That's what we can impart to you. But of course, you know Uganda far better than we do. So I can give you some, you know, because I've been a professional journalist, I've interviewed all sorts of different people all around the world. So I can share my experiences with you. But of course, in the first case, if me as a white guy approaches someone in a village in Uganda, they will react to me in a completely different way from if one of you did, you know. So for a start, it's different. And secondly, you know, that interaction will be different with you because you have a shared culture and language. So I'm not going to give you, I can pass on my tips, but, you know, I defer to you entirely in how you, especially things like getting people to agree to be interviewed. That's, you know that better than I do. And actually, I'm quite interested in learning some things from you, though. So while you digest that thought, I'll let the dog out. Just a moment. There we go.
It's nice to see you, George, on call.
Yeah, well, when we did this before, I mean, Michael knows this because when we did the pilot, you know, there are many other people in the network. I know in these meetings, it's always me that you're seeing, but that's because we tend to organize them at quite short notice and people don't have time to join. Fortunately, George did today, but you know, once we have this program set up, you know, it won't just be me, maybe not be me at all, delivering this, the training. That we have many people who do this. It's just they're busy with other stuff, as you well know. But you know, the people delivering it are all very seasoned, professional, you know, filmmakers and broadcasters who are also experienced in passing on their knowledge, and we brief them about your limitations technically, so they're not going to ask you to do things that you can't do with you know, without a smartphone. Right, so what next? Just to finish talking about the speaking of climate. Now, okay, well, here's maybe a good thing to think about. The names that we've given these three projects: GRIT, Global Reporter Intensive Training, How to Live Without Plastic, and Speaking of Climate. I see that you've already changed the names of two of them. I don't know if you realized it. To be clear, I don't mind that. You know, we're not kind of branding a product here. If it sounds better to you or to the ears of the people that you're talking to, by all means, let's call it something different. For example, How to Live Without Plastic. You've called it Living Without Plastic, which is shorter and maybe better. Another thing you could do is put a question mark at the end. Living without plastic? It's different from living without plastic, right? And it better reflects what we're actually doing. We're challenging people to imagine a world without it. And the same with the Speaking of Climate, as I've called it. I think, what did you call it in your... when you sent me the thing, you called it something else. What was it, Sheila? Can you help me here? Speaking of climate. Oh no, you used the same thing. I thought you used a different phrase. Anyway, I don't mind. I mean, whatever works best. But there are slightly different challenges involved. So the Speaking of Climate, or whatever we call it, and maybe we can call it different things depending on the speech and the audience. That's all right too. The branding is just this kind of internal thing, really. I mean, it doesn't matter what, you know, as long as the people hearing are happy with it. But this is basically a performance thing. It's a script writing and performance and public speaking challenge, because you're the person on stage representing all this other stuff, and that's a different kind of skill. So we've got to, spend a lot of time getting the text right, getting the visual aids right, rehearsing how to do it. And of course, as a professional broadcaster, I'm very, as you may have gathered, comfortable speaking without a script and doing it to camera. But there's tricks you've got to pick up to do that. And you've all attended enough Zoom calls and lectures to know the difference between someone talking to you like this and someone reading from a script like this, right? You've already seen the difference. So you want to put on a good show, right? You want it to be memorable, and you want it to be, and there are certain tricks that are universal, like speaking directly to camera, not using a script, being relaxed and using body language and all that stuff I can pass on. But there's also stuff that only you know what's appropriate in a Ugandan context. You may be doing it in a different language, there's all these other things to consider. But anyway, we can help with what we can help with. I suppose the only consistent thing is it serves a see-through goal of speeding up carbon drawdown by helping the inactive become active. So I see that as being really, and maybe we'll end up with a repertoire of 5 or 6 different trained speakers and 5 or 6 different speeches, that will be, you can then put on a menu that you can offer your corporate clients. So which one do you want? Who do you want? Do you want a young man, an older woman, whatever, that's, I think that's very flexible, that thing. And then the mechanics of recording it and putting it online, these are the skills you're going to be picking up anyway. Just coming back to something Michael said about the team, I think that's a very good point. So with the equipment that you have, whenever you film something, you need a minimum of 2 people. One person to think about the picture and one third person who's only thinking about the sound. And so just to explain how we did it with the GRIT program, with the children, and I don't know if you're thinking about doing it in a school environment or a corporate environment, it kind of doesn't matter, but here's what we did. We had, I think there were about 100 children, all in one Zoom call. They were all in this big corrugated iron shed in this slum in Nairobi, all listening intently. And of course, we were kind of using the teachers as your role as kind of intermediaries. We were teaching them, and then they were passing it on to the kids. But here's how we started. We said, all right, we're going to divide you into teams of 5, and you can name your own team, and that was all fun. So whatever, based on friendship groups, it doesn't matter. So this would work in a corporate environment as well. If you've got 20 people, all right, 4 teams of 5. Once they've established those teams, you then say, okay, of your 5 people, you've now got 5 minutes to work this out. There are 5 roles we're going to explain to you. Presenter, camera, sound, editor, and producer. Okay? Now you've got to decide in the next 5 minutes which one of you does which job. Now, let me explain briefly suggest how you're going to decide that. Whichever of your group of 5 is the most visual person, they should do the camera stuff. Whichever of you is the most, musical or interested in sound or audio, they should be the sound person. Whichever of you is the best organizer, the most efficient, organized person, they should be the producer. Whoever's the most comfortable and extrovert and good at speaking to people, they're the director. And whoever is the really well organized and meticulous and methodical person, they should be the editor. Go. That's it. And then you assign those roles, and that's the beginning of the understanding of the different roles. Now, it's fine once you've done that to swap roles, because it's good to understand all the different roles and do different ones, but that's a good starting point. Michael, you wanted to say something else?
Yes, Robert, I wanted to talk of, there are some videos where we will get from individuals who don't speak English. And once you get that video, you have to be able to interpret it to English so that it is able to to be put on social media. So that is another task they should be thinking about. And I think there are some gadgets which can interpret automatically, but not these local languages of ours.
Which languages? So, which languages do you think people will be using?
Well, not everybody. Like for example, if you meet, if we go with the talking about living without plastics, and you go to those old people, 65 or something, to give you that information. Some of them will, if you get one in English, that's well and good. But there are those ones who would prefer to speak in the local dialect.
But do you mean?
So we should.
By that, do you mean Kiswahili or something else?
Luganda, there's Lusoga here. There are very many different languages, Robert. There's actually, so the people interviewing or recording should be able to translate those words in English, because the person you're interviewing maybe is comfortable in his local language.
It's a very, very good point, and thank you for making it. Very simple rule. People should speak in whatever language they can best express themselves in. It's our problem to deal with that afterwards. So if they can express themselves best in Luganda, speak that. If they can do it best in Swahili, speak that. If they can express themselves comfortably in English, great. That's it. And I've spent my, as you may know, I speak a lot of languages. I've made a living for about 10, 15 years making documentaries in Japanese for Japanese public television. So I have a lot of experience in this issue of translating and subtitles and all the logistics involved in that. And now there's a lot of technology that can help you as well. But yeah, it's a very good point, but it's just another thing to deal with, and it's not a problem. But the main thing is, if the person, if being interviewed is not trying to find the word in an unfamiliar language and it can speak completely freely, it will be a better interview. And it's better to do that with subtitles than just to do it in English for the sake of it, completely. So, but that's a really good point. Okay, so that is, now let me ask you this question. For the GRIT program, let's just start with that one before we look at how to live without plastic. Where do you see, I mean, obviously, first of all, we'll train you. So what I would recommend in the first thing, which we can do next week, or whenever you want, is that you find 5 people and we'll do it. We'll just do it in exactly the way I described and what we did with the children in Kenya, and you've seen the result of those videos. So the best way to learn is just to do it. But in your context, do you see where would you be doing your marketing for this? Is it with schools? Is it with universities? Is it with institutions, with NGOs? You tell me. It doesn't matter. I'm just curious.
Rob, I'll answer that for my sake. In my case, I would prefer to do it in the community.
Yep.
I like working with the community, and because that's where the issues are pressing most. Because in schools or in institutions, I think there are some of these calamities, they don't experience it like the local man in the village.
Yep.
So I would prefer to work with the community. But if there's a school, there's no problem. Anybody who is comfortable with working with schools, it's okay. Then also organizations. There are organizations that have these newsletters that they publish. I think it's either monthly, or they can also get involved in this. If you can get an organization, it can work properly with this project.
That sounds fine to me. Yeah. And just so I understand, when you say community, is there kind of an established hierarchy or network, village elders, or, when you say community, who do you actually talk to? Who do you approach?
Yeah, of course we have community leaders who are like, for example, we have but again, we don't need to go to the LC chairman. If you want to talk to, well, you can inform him, but I think when you, in your community, when you gather some people around and you say you have this project and you needed some help, I'm sure they can come in handy.
Yeah.
Like, for example, here in Soroti, there is a community where I stay with. I mean, it's like a pub, and there's people around. I can gather them and, I tell them what I'm up to, and they give me their views, and I capture those views on camera if it necessitates. But I think that would be the easy option for the group. I don't know what they think. They can say what they have to say, but that was my idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that sounds absolutely fine. Another way, again, I don't know if this would work in Uganda, but what we did with the Think Game, for example, is it's kind of like you're putting on a show, right? So you could do it with How to Live Without Plastic. You could simply go to a public space, a park or the middle of a village or anywhere where there's people around, and you just start doing it. Do it to yourselves, and people are curious. In a public space, they'll gather and they'll listen in and they'll ask you what you're doing. And then you can tell them, and then you can say, would you like to do it? And people will form a queue. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. You can just go and do it. And now
that's very true.
I don't know if that would work in Uganda, but it's worked most places in the world I've ever.
It will. Yeah. I'm sure it will work because, and again, matters that affect, people. I'm sure they will want to express their views. Very many people have got what to say, but of course, some of them will say we are saying this, but we want something to happen. We don't want to tell you and nothing. You don't do anything. We want to tell you and you do something about it.
Well, so it's refreshing to hear that, because of course in the global north we have the problem that people want to be entertained and play games, but they don't want to do anything. So it's very refreshing to hear that the impetus for that is coming from the people rather than us having to persuade or nudge or convince people.
That's true. That's true, Alan. Robert, thank you.
But again, this is why I'm not making any assumptions about how these things will work locally. But it's useful to have these debates. But really, the simplest thing is just to do it and find out. And I think the sooner we start doing that, the better. Katonga Alan, yeah.
Yes, Robert. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you very much, Michael. I also agree and consent with what Michael is saying. Very much in the community. If we engage with the community, that would be very much okay. And if we also engage with maybe the community initiative, the different community circle leaders also, it will also makes things a bit easier. But Robert, just one thing to emphasize.
Yep.
Given that right now Uganda we're going into what we call a very critical moment, which is the campaign moment. It is a bit tricky, kinda, especially around the city centers. Engaging into community gathering or doing a community, so at least there have to be a lot of awareness with the people around, defining that right now we are going into the campaign where actually already people are vibed into the campaign mood. So, and the security details is also a bit different. So there is a little, and the way things work here a bit politically, especially when we are within that period, anything is bound to happen. So, but as long as you're strategic with whatever you're doing and and there is a lot of awareness, not only from you as the individuals who are engaging, but the community is aware, or even one particular individual within the community or the regional community leaders are aware. It is a very good go ahead for the program and the project and for the team. Yep. The only challenge is just comes in with the space of the political side. Now that just aside, actually most of the producers and the managers had a presentation today. They wanted to give you, because I gave tasks to individuals, to each individual, to at least find out more about their projects that they are going to be as producers or as managers. And they thoroughly took their time and made some little presentations of how these programs can be applicable and how best they can be implemented. So I don't know how best our time is to have them maybe showcase something, or it is something that we can have for next time. I don't know how best with that. But then I just wanted them to also give you a perspective view of what they think about these programs, the fact that they took their time and made some little research about it. So
no,
thank you very much.
I didn't realize that you prepared for this one as well, because I asked you to do it for the last meeting, but that's terrific. Yeah. How much time do we have left on this call? How long are these? I think we should listen to those presentations now. Absolutely. How long are they, roughly speaking?
Now for the grid is just three slides, majorly. But also the fact that you've given us because we lacked what we call an implementation plan. So when I was hearing what you were just laying out a few minutes, it was more of like an implementation strategy to us. So I just wanted to see how best applicable it can be, and just to find out more how applicable it can be with the team and when we're implementing this project. But now talking about speaking of climate, I think Sheila had something. Speaking of how to live without plastic, Chris and Christine had something. They had talked to me. So I just don't know if they are ready right now. I just don't know, but if they are ready, they can present. If they are not, it is something we can share with you in a documentation form after the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I have a suggestion.
Robert,
yeah.
Robert, I was thinking if there's time, they could present what they have now, so that we could have an idea of what they are working on, and we see how to panel beat them.
Okay, so my question is it Sheila and Christine, or whoever's prepared these things? I'm offering you a choice, because maybe what we've said now will influence what you would say. Would you like to go ahead and give us the presentation you prepared now, or would you like to absorb what we've said in this meeting and then do it next time, or send it to us separately? It's up to you. I don't mind either way.
Robert, I think it would be best if they present. I just don't know how much time will, because when someone presents, it gives the insight of what exactly they were trying to look for.
So Christine's just replied saying she'd do it next time. I think we might be running out of time. We've got 10 minutes left, so that's another factor. And I think we should.
Okay, thank you.
We should limit it at 2. Chris, did you have some? Would you like to go now or wait until next time?
I think putting into perspective what you've just brought up, I think it is better we do it next time in consideration of everything you have talked about, because what would present would be a little lacking.
Okay. That's okay.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, sorry, if I'd known you'd prepared them, we would have done it that way around. But given that we're already, and hopefully what we've been talking about has helped inform and adjust and improve your presentation anyway. And also, of course, how you present it is also a challenge. So I'm going to give you now that we're doing this way, I'll give you a deadline, 3 minutes again. You've got 3 minutes, no longer. Stopwatch. Practice. This is part of what we're going to be teaching you. Rehearse it. If it's talking to slides, think about visuals. How do you get across your message? So this is kind of the presentation itself is a sort of training as well.
Steve Kyle.
George, I think you got your.
Yeah, it's just turning it off.
Okay.
There you go.
So great. Let's do that next time because we've only got 10 minutes left. So let's just get down to the next steps then. I think so. Given that How to Live Without Plastic is a sort of subset of grit, I think let's just focus on that to start with. And what I propose is, as soon as you're ready, I'll just do it. And depending on timing, I may get other people involved as well. But just find those five people that I suggested, any five people. And if they already have an inclination towards camera work or sound or experience in editing, that's fine, so much the better. Up to you. But as soon as you can give me the names of five people and when they're available for online training, we can do it. It'll take, I mean, you probably read all the resources online. It doesn't matter whether you have or not. The more prepared you are, the faster it will go. The more experience you have, the faster it will go. But I just want to show you the process, because what I'm also teaching you, of course, is how to teach it to someone else. So it's very simple. For that, just give me five names and a time when you're ready, and we'll just do it. And I'll show you how, the pilot that we have, how we use the resources, and the best thing is just to do it. And then you'll understand it. And then we can start to look at adaptations maybe. So regarding, just to go back to what Katongole Alan said about the political situation now, of course, that's your duty of care as EALS, not to send people out in dangerous situations. The first duty is always keep people safe. So again, the local situation much better than I do. I would never want to send people out into a dangerous situation. Actually, we had a similar thing when we did the project in Kenya, because we were doing it about the same time as there were political protests, and one of the main centers for the protests was just by this school, this orphanage, HIV orphanage in the slum where we were teaching the kids. And we had to cancel a couple because they were told to stay at home, so that's absolutely fine. And yeah, I obviously have a lot of experience in reading those signals myself, but I don't always get it right. When I was working for CNN in China, I was arrested dozens of times by the Chinese police for committing journalism in public, as I saw it. So yeah, you can't always predict these things, but let's err on the side of caution here. Maybe, I don't know, again, you tell me, it would be easier to do this in the countryside rather than the capital. I don't know. This is another trade-off between getting permission in advance from the community leaders. Of course, if you do that first, then that should remove the problems. When the policeman comes up and says, "What are you doing?" They say, "Oh, the elder here says it's okay." "Oh, right, fine." Again, I'm not. That's up to you. I'm not going to make suggestions one way or the other. But it's a good point, of course. And if this is a politically sensitive time, but for the moment anyway, it's just internal training, so it doesn't matter. So let's do that with How to Live Without Plastic. I mean, what you'll find is that the basic skills you're learning can then be applied to the Think game. It's technically slightly more content, to Betting the Farm, to Voxbox project, all these other things. The hard bit is actually just getting the workflow and the basic skills right. Once you know that, the rest, you can work it out yourselves, actually. So in a way, it kind of doesn't matter which one you picked. We would have got there in the end anyway. And then you've got a broader menu of things that you can offer. But let's start with one. How to Live Without Plastic, I think, is a good one. Think about what part of your presentation, whoever it is, what are we going to call it? I've already heard about 5 different How to Live Without Plastics. Maybe that sounds better to Ugandan ears. Consider putting a question mark at the end of it, or living without plastic, living without plastics, question mark. I'm not wedded to any of these, just whatever you think works best, or try to do some market research yourself on people, which one is most intriguing to them. And so let's do that on that project. I'm just waiting for your 5 names and your time and availability. Sheila, for the speaking of languages thing, I think this is a slightly different challenge. It's a combination of subject matter, presentation skills, and scripting. Let's not worry about filming it and capturing it, because that's the job of the teams learning that and the other lot. So if you want to have a think about that and then prepare a presentation, or we can just have a chat, or do an email or whatever's, or have a Zoom call. That's probably best done independently without involving everyone, and then we can just update them on the results, or you can. Does that sound like a plan? We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Yep.
like a plan.
You okay with that?
Yes, I think it's all good.
Right. Well, there we go. The main thing is just to get on and start doing it. These meetings have been really good and really important. Obviously, being continents away and separated by distance and language and culture and all this stuff, it's important to, go through these steps. But as you know, I'm a doer, and so is Michael, and I think everyone here is as well. So the best way to learn is just to do it. And we have this philosophy they use in the National Health Service here with surgeons, training surgeons. You say you see one, you do one, you teach one. So let's just get the doing done, and then you can start you're on the path to teaching other people how to do it. What we haven't covered in this meeting is monetizing it and that, but that's, for a start, it's completely up to you, and maybe that this isn't the right place to talk about it, and I don't mind either way, but apart from making the observation that people, institutions and companies at any rate, maybe not communities, and maybe not in Uganda, tend to value things that cost money more than they do free things. But again, that may not be true there, and it would be great if it isn't. But at the same time, I really appreciate all your time and effort putting so much of your attention and skill and focus on this thing. So let's just get on and do it. Any last thoughts, George, from your perspective?
I think that the ideas that we were touching upon earlier, that developing skills in being friendly with people in order to get people involved is worth thinking about carefully. Of course, you might be getting some opinions that are strong, or contrasting opinions. People might have very different opinions, but keeping a calm exterior and not having an argument with people and being diplomatic is good. I think those skills are what someone seeking opinions is going to need.
I think from what I've learned from everyone here, they're all very, very good diplomats and very, very good speakers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I think that the meeting's about to end, so rather than have it happen abruptly, I'll now say thank you very much again. And if anyone would like to try editing this in the same way that I did the last one, let me know, and I will send you the video files. And if anyone wants to have a practice with